Hey everybody, this is HD. Welcome back. This is going to be another HD broadcast, and it is going to be myself playing as the Zerg player here, the blue Zerg in the bottom left-hand corner of Lost Temple, and my opponent is going to be my good friend Dopa. As you guys all know, I've casted quite a few games between me and him. We kind of have a little bit of a rivalry going where we have we usually play the craziest games ever, and then, you know, whatever ones that we really liked, that a lot of people enjoyed, we usually upload them up to YouTube, and then I like to cast them over. And it's been a great, it's been a great series of games. If you guys have been chilling in the HD Starcraft channel on battle.net, Dopa and I have been hosting a lot of public games. We've been doing a lot of custom games. We've been doing a lot of 1v1s, 2v2s, playing against the fans. So if you guys ever have a chance, go to HD Starcraft on Battle.net 2.0 and check it out. We've been playing some awesome community events and stuff like that, and this is actually one of them. This is one of the games. I think we had 10 spectators, which is the maximum allowed, and a lot of people were saying, cast this game, cast this game. It was a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to be casting 2 games. I've done maybe 3 or 4 in the past, so this I guess would be game 4 or game 5 or whatever it is. I'll look it up after I'm done casting this, but it is once again going to be a Protoss versus Zerg. This is going to be in replay format because I didn't record this, unfortunately, but it's still going to be an awesome game nonetheless. So here we go. It looks like Dopa is going to be opening up with this forge opening at the front door of Lost Temple. And this is actually a really good build if you're Protoss against Zerg. Because it allows you to secure your natural expansion very easily, and also you can be aggressive with cannons. You don't have to be defensive with cannons, especially if your Zerg opponent goes for this hatchery. As you guys see here, me going for this early hatchery, this 14 hatch, then what the Protoss can do is start to throw out massive amounts of cannons, and if you're Zerg, you're forced to pull all your drones off the line. So as you guys can see, I'm bringing like 6 or 7 drones off, and you guys might think this is overkill, but really it's absolutely necessary, because if the Protoss is allowed to get any cannons up, then you are in big doo-doo land. So especially, I mean, look at that. That spawning pool is way far away from being complete. So here we go. Here comes the first cannon. It's your objective here to focus down these cannons. You can let the pylons go up, but try to prevent the cannons from going up. Whatever it takes, make sure you do not allow the cannons to go up. And as you guys can see, it's really not that much of a cost investment for the Protoss, because any good Protoss will cancel the cannons, as you guys see there, right before it gets killed. And the entire time the Zerg player loses a bunch of economy. Right now I have none of these drones are mining, and they're just out here trying to fight when they really should be mining minerals. And all it costs for the Protoss player is 1 probe and 25% of a photon cannon each time. So yeah, great play right here from the Protoss. It's very aggressive opening, but it allows the Protoss to get that early expansion down. And like I've always said before, a 2-base Protoss is much better than a 2-base Zerg. So if you're Zerg right now, if you're in my position, what you gotta do is try to get a 3rd expansion quickly, or you gotta try to bust down this forge fast expand as fast as possible. So you do have 2 options in dealing with this, but it's really up to you which route you want to take, if you want to play the macro game or if you just want to try to end it right away. Now, it looks like Dopa is, if we look at the income tab, we can see that both of us are about even in harvester count. I might be just a little bit ahead, because right now I know as a Zerg, I can see that my opponent went for this forge opening. Most likely he's got a Nexus going back up here. So I know all I have to do is just pump drones. I'm not in danger of an attack whatsoever. I've decided I'm not going to try to bust this down early on. I'm just going to try to play macro and grab a 3rd expansion as quickly as humanly possible, or as Zergly possible if you're a Zerg player. So that's going to be my strategy here. And as you guys can see on the production tab, 5 drones coming up right now. This is what you need to do to catch up and start to surpass the enemy Protoss. Also, it's nice to control this Xel'Naga watchtower here. You got 4 Zerglings here. Leave them at the watchtower. Leave 1 or 2. And it'll allow you to get that sensor tower range. It lets you see everything around the map, including if your opponent decides to push out. And it gives you that kind of forewarning, that advanced warning notice, so that you can start to pump attacking units when necessary. Now, as you guys can see, I have 4 Zerglings. I'm gonna actually start to work down these gold rocks, and the reasoning for that is because I need to get this gold expansion up as quickly as possible. Like I said before, you want to get that 3rd base against a Protoss, and I do have an Overlord just kind of floating in here to see exactly what my opponent is up to. I want to know what buildings he's going for, because at this point it's very well possible that he can be going for Stargate, and you need to be ready if he's gonna pump out some Void Rays or Phoenix. And yeah, if you're ever in doubt, when the Protoss goes for a fast expansion, move your Overlord in around the 7-minute mark. That's usually when the Protoss will reveal his technology. And it looks like Dopa is going to try to kill off this Overlord before he starts to lay down his buildings. As you guys can see, he's conserving a lot of his minerals. He's going to wait to kill off my Overlord, and then he's going to throw down his tech facility, whatever he decides to go for, whether it be a 5-gate, a 6-gate, or if it's going to be for Stargates. Also note though, he does have +1 weapons coming, so most likely it is going to be some kind of a 5 warp gate or 6 warp gate attack. And if you move your Zergling in here, you can actually see the little glow of the forge, so that's kind of a telltale sign that your opponent is going to be going for ground units. Now, as you guys can see, still working on those drones. I am actually dead even with the Protoss, and that's because obviously Chrono Boost on the Nexus really helps Protoss players pump out a bunch of probes easily and effectively. But at the same time, I do have my roaches coming right now. I know around this time is when the Protoss gets very dangerous, and I do have an Overlord just kind of positioned all around the map. I can see 1 gateway here, and all I have to do, I really don't need to scoot in to see the rest of these warp gates. I can kind of tell by the fact that there's this forge glowing right here, and I can kind of tell that my opponent hasn't really been throwing down buildings earlier on. I can see that most likely he's going to be moving out with a bunch of warp gate units. And to deal with that, the best combination is either Roach Ling or Roach Hydra. Roach Hydra is actually even nicer than Roach Speedling, but either option works. And if you want to really conserve on your gas intake and conserve on your gas reserves, then you can kind of just go for pure Roaches and Speedlings. Now, as you guys can see, I am also working on that creep spread. I'm moving it towards the center of the map. You do want to try to get that creep speed bonus towards your opponent's base. And it looks like right now Dopa finally going to be pushing out. He does have a pretty massive army, and I see that it's mostly Stalkers. And because I played against Dopa so much, I know that Mass Blink Stalker is one of his most common strategies, and I know that the best option here is to go for Roach Speedling, get a bunch of Roach Speedling, eventually maybe go to Hydras, and make sure I keep staying on that creep. I want to fight on the creep, because if you don't fight on the creep, those Stalkers have such a huge speed advantage. You cannot chase them down, and you really do need to make sure that your creep spread is on point. Now, as you guys can see, I also have the risk here because I'm going for the gold hatchery, so I have to prevent Dopa from taking out that gold expansion. So I'm moving forward with the Roaches and Speedlings here, picking off whatever Stalkers I can, and then falling back. Unfortunately, I left 1 Stalker here. Looks like I am going to take it out. And I did decide to go ahead and pull some of my drones off to build spine crawlers. And you know, the reasoning for this is the focal point in the battle here in this game of StarCraft. You always have to decide in a game where are your central focal points, and this is really one of those key areas. I have the gold expansion. I need to hold on to this because it's 2 base versus 3 base right now. I need the 3rd base, so this is a very key point that I need to hold on to. So I'm gonna throw down 4 spine crawlers to help me secure this position. And also, it's going to help me spread out my creep as well. And here we go. I'm going to move out with my Roaches and my Speedlings. Note, Dopa, very good with those, with the Blink Micro. One of the best, really, Protoss players that I've played against that have very good Blink Micro. He's pulling back all the Stalkers that are in the red and bringing them back, so he's keeping them alive so they can continue to deal maximum firepower. Now, that's not the worst trade for me. Notice that I do have my spine crawlers up, so I can always fall back to the spine crawlers if things get a little bit hairy. And right now I am just producing pretty much all Speedlings and more Roaches to deal with this Stalker army. Dopa is trying to punish me right now. He's trying to push in and take out all of my Roaches and my Speedlings, and once again using that Blink Micro to great effectiveness. And of course he's warping with his pylons down below. So far a very close game. He's still continuing to apply that pressure. And it looks like right now I'm gonna move forward. I want to make sure these spine crawlers are protected. I don't want to allow them to be popped off by that large stalker army. Dopa, do note he has +1 weapons, most likely working on +2, and a very close battle right here. My spine crawler is obviously getting a little low, and this is when I realized, wow, I'm actually still very much in trouble. Even though I've got spine crawlers here, even though I have creep, even though I have the gold expansion, Dopa's blink micro is really good, to the point where it's actually scary to deal with. And you know, you have to try to get fancy. You have to try different strategies and tactics in order to deal with that. So do note, I do have Overlord drop right now, and I did have a strategy to use some Overlord drop tactics, and my plan was actually to bring an Overlord. There we go. I have an Overlord coming in here, and as you guys can see, I have a couple of drones, and my strategy here was to start to build some spine crawlers on the ledge overlooking the natural expansion, and try to abuse this ledge that a lot of times Terran players would do, and sometimes even Protoss players would do, but Zerg players never ever do. And you know, if things are getting hairy and you play against the same opponent over and over again, it's always a good idea to mix it up, adapt your strategy, change up your play style. And so this is where I decided to go ahead and build some spine crawlers, but luckily for my opponent, and unfortunately for me, Dopa had a warp prism. And so this is completely counters my spine crawlers on the ledge. At the same time though, I'm going to go ahead and push out. I'm going to try to distract him so I can get my spine crawlers up and running. And this is all going back to that idea of making two-pronged attacks, attacking at the front of your opponent's base, and at the same time trying to erect spine crawlers at the backside. As you guys can see though, Dopa very good with his attention span. If we go ahead and look at his player camera view, we can see right now he's completely focused on making sure these spine crawlers fall down, and then shifting back over to the front battle at the center of our two bases. Also note, actually he has this expansion here. I did not notice that. So he did actually get a side expansion up, and I did not realize that. And so at that point, really, if you're a Zerg player, you need to be able to keep your Overlords all over the map so that you don't let your opponent sneak out one of those third bases to the side. But anyways, I am going to try to push in here, continuing to just try to hold on to this gold expansion. This is really where everything is happening. And unfortunately for me, I did lose all of my spine crawlers except for one. So that's one big disadvantage. I have all my queens out here as well. Not sure what they're doing, but if you're in this position, try to rebuild your spine crawlers, try to grab a fourth. And of course, if you see a bunch of probes going like that, you should automatically notice that, yeah, he's got a third base somewhere. But unfortunately, I did not see those probes. I did see that one, but I didn't actually realize that Dopa did have a third expansion coming up right here, and this is where it does get very risky. In fact, Dopa also warping in some zealots into the back of my gold expansion. Very smart play, and at the same time also warping in a bunch of stalkers at the ledge between the gold and my natural expansion. So very wise play right here, and this is something that Protoss players don't do all too often. They don't make warp prisms, and they don't abuse the ledge. This with blink stalkers, you can blink down, you can blink back up, you can do a lot of cute fancy things, and this is actually what I was trying to do. I was trying to put spine crawlers on the ledge, but Dopa turning the medicine against me and using my own strategy. So it looks like I was gonna try to drop with my overlords here, but unfortunately too many stalkers, currently at +2 weapons. Also note, he was getting a dark shrine as well as robotic support bay. So things were not looking too good. In fact, I think there's some DTs coming out pretty soon. The Dark Shrine is on the way. It looks like I actually tried to bust down the front door, but that didn't work out too well. Here comes my roaches and lings once again. I knew that I was at a very bad spot, because at the backside of my base there was a bunch of stalkers killing my gold. There were stalkers at my natural expansion, so I knew at this point I have to try to go all in if I want to win this game. There's just no chance that I can play this out towards a long-term game. If we look at the income tab, we can see Dopa at 71 harvesters, whereas I am at a measly 42. So really, I have to make something happen. I was trying to defend and at the same time make attacks happen, but Dopa, with very good pressure, continuing to push out with his stalkers, and was able to fend off my attack at the same time. So very good play right there. Now, as you guys can see, he still has those stalkers at the backside. He's still using that warp prism to warp in more stalkers. Currently at +3 weapons. My roaches only have 1 carapace and they actually have 0 armor. And I realized, you know, if I'm going to win this game in the long run, I have to try to grab mass expansion. So that's why I try to sneak down 2 expansions at the south side of Lost Temple. And hopefully I can hold on to those. If possible, if I can get those saturated, if I can get those mining, I might have a chance in this game. But at the same time, I have to be able to defend against all these stalkers. But it really becomes rough. It's a rough situation when all these stalkers can be warped in on call. When your Protoss opponent has 8 or 9 warp gates, you can make so many stalkers. Even if you have Overlord drop, even when you try to drop down those Zerglings and Roaches, it's just so many stalkers. That it's a very, very difficult situation, especially since they have +3 weapons. So, as you guys can see, 77 harvesters, over 30. Dopa actually had a bunch of mining going on now at the side expansion. And I think I finally did find, yeah, I did eventually find out that he had the side expansion, but unfortunately with all those cannons, it's just way too difficult to try to bust that down with the measly number of Zerglings and Roaches that I had. And of course now, the Dark Templar coming in. Eventually, one of the nastiest units in the Protoss arsenal. These guys in the late game, very, very much feared by all players in Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. And at the end of the day, I think this is going to be GG. I was actually just waiting for my 4 or 5 Ultralists to come out. Yes, indeed, I finally did get up to Hive Tech, and I decided, you know, maybe 4 or 5 Ultralists will be able to hold this off. Even though the Stalkers have +3 weapons, who knows? I thought I would try to just hold on to this game and hang on to the very last moment. Because, you know, if you're in a situation where, even though things are looking bleak, you never know when, you know, favor might turn towards your way and you might be able to pull back ahead in this game. So I was waiting for my Ultralist to come out. Here's my lone Ultra. I don't know where the rest are, but that Ultra gets picked off very easily, and because of that, I finally realized that's a GG, that's a wrap. So that's one game between me and Dopa. I was planning to cast one more, and the next one is actually even more epic, I think, than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and cast the next one very, very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. I thought this was a great game because it featured a lot of interesting ledge play. As you guys can see, the Spine Crawlers over here, there's still actually some residue creep right there. And of course the Blink Stalkers and the Warp Prism play against me. So really using terrain to your advantage, that's one thing that a lot of Starcraft players don't do. But realize that a lot of maps offer a lot of unique terrain advantages that you should take advantage of. Especially, you know, all races can take advantage of that terrain, especially Terrans and Protoss. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this broadcast. We're going to have more games coming soon. HD signing out.